Welcome back to the channel. My name is Engelhardt. I spent over $1 million on meta ads this month. I guess now it's the 8th of the month, so technically last month, this month it's in the few hundreds of thousands. I have undeniable proof right here. I'm gonna go through a few accounts. I'll refresh a few times to prove that it's real. These are only 2 clients of mine. The rest I definitely cannot show. Cannot obviously say what brands these are as well, but I mean, we are spending quite a lot. We're approaching $1 million a month in spend. So you know the revenue of course has to be relatively profitable to be able to spend this amount. So I'm gonna go through, I'll show you these accounts. Here's one, here's another one. Clients I've been with for years at this point. We've scaled them from in the tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands to now close to $1 million a month in spend. But yeah, I've spent $1 million a month or $1 million on meta ads the last 30 days, and we consistently do it every single month across all my clients. It's actually way more than $1 million, but I said 200 million in my last video and everyone's just doubting all the numbers. So regardless, I'll give you a quick background of who I am and my credibility, and then I'll go into show you examples of ads we've made for big brands. So I started at a big ad agency. I was employee number 1, and our first 2 clients were Instacart, DoorDash, Dr. Squatch, True Classics. And we were, managing these creatives, creating the ad creatives for these brands. This is when UGC basically first started, and you had to focus on the creative to scale this brand or these brands, right? So all of our focus went into making ad creatives, casting talent, scripting. What are the angles of this? How are we creating hooks? Are street interviews gonna work? We built a street interview team. I mean, the comments in my last video, I know you're not supposed to listen to the haters, but it's like, how did you get these clients? I personally did not get these clients. $200 million was not out of my pocket, obviously. These brands were spending millions a month on ads, and it was our job to make sure once these ads burned out, a constant flow of new ads, so we were able to continuously spend that amount or hopefully scale and hit the CPA goals. I was there for 4 years. I built teams while I was there, had an amazing relationship with the founder. I absolutely loved working there. It was incredible. As I was working there, I had friends with their own direct-to-consumer brands. They knew that I was doing this. I was making ads for these huge brands. I was running these ads, or I was either making the creative, or sometimes I was actually in the creative. They knew I was doing this. So they said, can you help me with my ads? And absolutely, of course, you're a friend. I will absolutely help you. This turned into basically me having clients on the side. And that became so big, so I started my own ad agency. I left after 4 years from the big ad agency, started my own, put a name on it, called it AdBlend, and I've been doing this for a little bit over 2 years at this point on my own. It's called AdBlend. We make ad creatives that help direct-to-consumer brands scale with meta ads. We are focusing on the angle, focusing on how can we convert a person that is just scrolling into a happy customer. That is all we do. That is all I want to focus on. Meta ads, sometimes TikTok, but never Google, never anything else. We focus on one thing and we do one thing, in my opinion, the best, extremely well. So, with that being said, of course, the hundreds of millions of dollars are not from my pocket. This is, brands spending this money because they're doing very well, because our ad creatives allow them to scale, and it's helping them, perform as a brand. We're hitting their CPA, their ROAS goals. So now with my own ad agency, we're helping a bunch of other brands now scale as well. I do not have, DoorDash, Dr. Squatch. I have other brands that some are big or, as big or bigger, but I'm just saying that I ran those ads, I created ads for those brands, and I'm going to give you even more proof, right? So I showed you a few ad accounts that I currently have as clients. I've been working them for years at this point, and I'm going to also show you some examples here. This is for a brand, Jambies. They do very well. It's very, breathable underwear. I'll show you this ad right now.
I've been waiting for these to come, and they finally arrived. They're called Jambies. They're basically underwear with pockets. They're basically underwear with pockets. Here's me trying to open them up. Struggle a little bit, but we're trying to open them up. Struggle a little bit. And there they are. They're actually so nice. And there they are. They're actually so nice and safe. I can't describe to you how soft they are. Here's an example of normal underwear. They have the pockets, and I'm trying to put it in, and it's not working, obviously. And it's not working. And these are the Jambies pockets. Look at that. It fits the entire phone in there. It's incredible. It's the entire phone in there. It's incredible. So when I finally put them on, let me tell you, I sprinted to
Now when I woke up, I've never felt like so cool and comfortable. It's actually amazing. I hopped out of bed and it just felt good. I hopped out of bed and just felt good. Or just to lounge around. Either way, or just to lounge around. Love that ad. I just love the hook. So we focus on hooks. It's very important, of course. Lighting things on fire, rolling things over with a car, perform very well. For the Neptune beef tallow, it's like a skincare product.
What if skincare doesn't want Americans to know?
This is why women are ditching traditional skincare. I feel like I have tried every moisturizer at Sephora, and nothing seems to work. I found this tallow and honey balm from Neptune. It only has 3 ingredients: grass-fed beef tallow, manuka honey, and olive oil. So no forever chemicals, parabens, and synthetic fragrances like all the other traditional moisturizers. This stuff is seriously so smooth on my skin. Trust me, once you try this moisturizer, you won't go back to your other products.
I mean, I love
Break up with those synthetic moisturizers at Sephora and Target and try a natural tallow balm from Neptune.
Love that ad. Here's one for Everyday Dose. You might have seen this.
3 reasons why I love regular coffee. Number 1, coffee makes me bloated. I ditched my old mushroom coffee because I want to feel constipated and bloated all day. When I drank Everyday Dose, I used to have a clear mind and healthy gut, but now I don't because I drink regular coffee. Number 2, gives me jitters. I used to drink mushroom coffee, which has a reasonable amount of caffeine and doesn't give me jitters and crashes, but now I feel stressed out all day. Number 3, coffee is expensive. I used to go to Starbucks every day and it cost me hundreds of dollars every month. Everyday Dose is less than $1 a day. I used to be able to afford rent, but now I can't, and it's great living in a cardboard box. Don't try Everyday Dose today.
Just a negative angle as a positive. Here's one for laundry sauce.
Okay, you guys, I have to tell you about this thing, laundry sauce. I bought it for my boyfriend. They're these laundry detergent pods. They literally smell like cologne. Like, he does not
They do smell great
anymore since I've gotten him these laundry pods. They come every 2 months. They do a full load of laundry. They smell so good. He used to smell so bad even after he washed his clothes. Now that he has these laundry pods, he smells amazing. I really recommend them.
Just very short to the point, you know. The hook's nice because it shows the product. The product just happens to be extremely oddly satisfying in the sun. It looks beautiful, and then the hook's a little bit interesting, kind of based off what we did for Dr. Squatch. Can't Stop Sewing My boyfriend. We did Step Brother stuff. That worked very well for Dr. Squatch, True Classics. I'm sure you've seen that as well. So these are the ads that we make. Let's go into this Miro board. Basically, this is the behind the scenes of making an ad that's going to perform. So those ads did pretty well. Of course, we have other ads that are performing very well, but this is where we start, right? So this is the strategy before the actual scripting. What goes into all the thought process before we start writing the ad and then casting the talent? We start with the angle. What are we actually going to solve? What's going to resonate with the audience? We have to figure that out. It takes a lot of research. So what do we think the audience is going to react to? And then, we're looking into Reddit forums, TikTok, talking to people about what their experiences are with a product that's similar or the actual product, depending on how big the brand is. We're trying to figure out what is going to trigger an audience to stop scrolling, and then how are we going to get them to resonate, right? So the angle always comes first. Is it going to be something with side sleepers? How much do you hate caffeine? Something, along the lines of, what are you trying to ditch instead of, what are you going to ditch to then find this as the alternative? Then we move on to the format. What's the format of this ad going to be? Is it going to be a green screen, pointing to the B-roll? What's going to be behind that talent? How are we going to explain it in a very catchy way? Is it going to be a simple UGC? You're going to hold the product, talk about it, point to it like an influencer type of product. It depends on the age demographic. These can all work. It depends who you're selling to. If it's a trending format, typically it's a bit younger, right? It's about 25 to 35. UGC could be a bit older, 45 plus. Green screen is typically, a bit evergreen. So it can work for, any type of demographic. It's just very catchy in general. But we go from the angle, and then we go to the format. So how are we going to display this information? And then we're going to map out the goal here, right? So we're of course going to prioritize the sale. We're going for the sale. We're not going for brand awareness. We're not going for traffic. We're going for people to actually purchase something, and preferably the most amount of product that they could possibly purchase of that thing, right? So we're gonna go for a 2-pack, a 3-pack, a bundle. We want them to purchase as much as possible. That is how the ads are then profitable, right? So we have to show them that buying one or typically 2 or more of these things is the most convenient option, right? So you're going for the sale, and typically not very polished. Goes back to the format. We need the click-through rate. The click-through, the CTR needs to be higher typically than 2%, 3%, 4% is incredible. Any higher is absolutely incredible. Typically statics do that, great looking statics do over 4%, but we're prioritizing hook as well, right? So you saw in the ads I just described, or I just showed, the hook was very catchy. It was either oddly satisfying, lighting something on fire. It was, panning, and then it had the headline very big. What's the hook? And then how are we going to generate those clicks, right? The goal is to get somebody to, stop scrolling, click on that, click on the ad, and then of course convert what's gonna go, into all of that to then make them, eventually purchase. And then how are we going to educate them, right? We have to show the solution, what are we solving? What is this product solving? That has to go into all of this. So you're balancing all of these three things here. The angle has to resonate, the format needs to be catchy enough, and then you need to sell the product. You can't just say, this is the best thing ever, I'm so obsessed with this. That's not going to work. The hook has to be catchy. This ad should not be polished. We focus on direct response. We need somebody to take an action. How are we gonna do that? By educating them after we capture their attention. The education has to be, pretty bite-sized too. So that is the strategy before scripting. This is the structure of the actual creative, right? So everyone talks about the hook. It's pretty known at this point. I guess this is a general overview, but I'll still go through this because, I think it's still very important. A lot of people are getting it wrong. The creative starts with the hook. The first 3 to 5 seconds, of course, as I keep saying, need to capture the attention. Everyone understands that. Not many people know how to do that. I don't know why, because if you scroll on TikTok or you scroll on your newsfeed and you realize, oh, this thing just caught my attention, you just, take yourself out of that and you're like, oh, why did this capture my attention? Are they playing with, Orbeez? What are they doing? Are they cutting something up? Understand what's capturing attention and then how you can capture the attention of the audience that you're trying to sell to. You need to resonate immediately. So example, in that beef tallow ad, we said, what big skincare doesn't want Americans to know, right? So I'm hooked, my attention is captured. What don't they want us to know? Why is, what is big skincare hiding from us? And it's a panning of Sephora, right? It's blurred, so, there's no legal issues there, but it's very catchy, it's very interesting. What are we going to say that's going to, eventually follow up with piquing their interest? The next thing, of course, is the body. The after the hook, and that leads up until the call to action, the body has to give the value props of the thing that you're actually selling. And you need to, of course, give proof. So, what's the use case? What are the B-rolls? How can you actually use this product in everyone's day-to-day lives? Or, what is this going to solve, right? So the value props need to be paired with great looking B-roll to describe this product. Some text overlays, voiceover if you're not having a green screen or a talent talk about it. Everything in the body is extremely important because that now the person is now watching past, let's say, the 5-second mark, and typically the average view time is about 7 to 8 seconds of a 35-second ad. So people are dropping off relatively quickly. What are you saying in the body that's going to get them to click? Because typically no one's staying towards the end, right? So all your information has to be within the 3 to 7 second range. The information, what is your product doing for them? Well, first you need to capture the attention. What is your product doing for them? What is your offer? And then the call to action, right? So after your value props, you need to be like, oh, they're doing a buy 2, get 1 free. It's 20% off. It comes with a free frother, free pillowcase. I can't believe this deal. My husband's obsessed with this. And then of course, for the people that are going to stay towards the end here, the call to action. What's the offer again? Repeat it. And then say, buy now, click here. This is not gonna last forever. This is, I'm so happy I got this. I'm buying a few more right now, similar to what we did in Jambies. I'm gonna go buy a few more underwear right now. This is it. It seems simple, but it's not as easy as this looks. I hope it seems so easy and you can do it very easily, but all of these variables need to match up to make a winning ad. If one thing is off, the ad doesn't really work very well. So it's a combination of how can you capture the attention, how are you explaining your product to actually be captivating enough to solve that person's problem, and then what is your offer? Is your offer good enough for somebody to actually take a break in their day to purchase whatever you're selling? It all has to work relatively congruently. If one variable is off, the whole thing doesn't work. If your hook's off, no one's gonna care. If your value props are off, still no one's gonna care if it doesn't resonate enough. And then if your offer is not good enough, people are gonna go to Amazon and buy something else. Once you find a top performer, let's say you combine everything here, you finally get a winner, you're testing, like crazy, you're putting a bunch of different things together, you're testing different hooks, different bodies, and you finally land a decent offer, right? Once you have a top performer, you have to iterate, maybe this example, like a scientist, right? this is taking every variable and basically breaking it down. This is where even more performance comes from. Once you have a top performing ad, you have to test different things here to squeeze more performance out of it, or to just generate an entirely new winning ad. And this is exactly how to do it. Once you have a top performer, it's typically from scratch, right? You're going to test new hooks. So you're gonna take the entire ad and then change the first, if it's first 3 seconds, 5 seconds, test different, headlines. What are you saying immediately? And then what are you showing? What's the visual? Test those in a combination where you can put it into one ad set. Don't overwhelm the ad set where it's like 10, 20 variations. It should be like, 3 to 5 new variations, just testing different hooks. Then another test here is the voiceover. Are you doing a voiceover? What are they saying? What are they saying in the first, 10 seconds? Can you switch that out? What if you take out the voiceover and put a talent in there, green screen? Is the talent gonna resonate with them more? If you have just if you have a talent in there, does it work to, change the VO, the voiceover, to be a male talent? Are you selling, who are you selling to? Can you change the voiceover to match a different demographic? So there's a bunch of different variables with the voiceover as well. You can also change what you're saying. You can keep that entire ad the same, change the voiceover to change it to a different offer, change it to a different pain point. You can change the entire angle with the voiceover and keep everything the same as long as it matches, right? You can also take this video and turn it into a static. If this is a very interesting looking hook, right? So that's the intro of the Neptune where it says, what big skincare doesn't want Americans to know. You can screenshot that and it would probably do very well as a static. So where can you take screenshots, or what can you replicate to become statics and then put the offer on that? Something that has to do with the video, right? People are commenting, how does that pillow look like that at frame, whatever. You're like, oh, that's an interesting screenshot, an interesting frame of the video. How can we turn this into a bunch of different statics? Put the offer, put the headline, test them as statics. If you have a bunch of statics and people are clicking on a specific offer, or someone's face is in it, take that talent and make a bunch of videos with them, or take that offer and explain it in different video form. You can also animate a static. It doesn't have to be an entirely new format in a UGC style. You can just animate the static. That could work very well as well. And then of course, once you have a winning ad, you can test the different talents, right? You can cast talents that either look like this top performing talent or are completely different. Same script, same B-roll, same everything. That's why I also like green screen formats, because you can just swap that person out with a new talent and keep everything in the background for the green screen the same. Test different talents. You'd be surprised what actually resonates with the audience. We're running a pillow product. I mentioned this multiple times, I'll say it again. We're running a pillow product. The demographic we're going for is women. Women are typically buying a lot of the pillows in the household. And it started to really click when we swapped out the woman for an attractive looking, let's say 35-year-old male. It started to work much better because the women wanted to look at this male. They were like, oh wow, this guy's so dreamy, right? They're commenting that, they're loving it. Comments boost the algorithm, the ad does better, CPM goes down a little bit, click-through rate goes up, and people are buying. Test different talent variations, typically as much as you possibly can, and once you find a winner, keep that script, test different talents. Once you find a winning talent, test them with different scripts. You can do that too, I should add that as well. Once you have this concept that's winning, just take that talent and then have them do different scripts, different angles. So yeah, focus on the variables. Don't just test a bunch of random things, because you're not gonna understand why something worked, and then you're also not gonna even just re-spark that winning ad, because eventually this ad, the top performer, is going to burn out. This is the way to get ahead of it, and this is the way to basically, re-spark it. So while you're, building new ads in the background, this is the way to get more performance out of it. Here's a recap, right? So basically most winners do come from iterating, not guessing. Guessing at the beginning, I mean, you have to, because you have to understand, you have to read what your audience wants, or just kind of think what your audience wants. Typically, it comes from your thought process and just understanding the audience. Excuse me. But when you iterate, a lot of winners, a lot of winners do come from just re-sparking the ad, changing the hook, changing the headline, changing the talent with a winning script. There's some brands we've worked on where the same script has worked for almost probably a year at this point, and we're just changing different talent, same script, it's just resonating every time. It's just resonating, and it's actually tough to beat. The script is just crushes. It's long form, but it works very well. So a lot of winners do come from iterating, not guessing. You can't just guess, throw something out there, hope it works. If it doesn't work, oh, I don't know about this one. That's not really an educated test, an educated guess. It's more of, you know, throwing things at the wall, hoping something sticks. You can't really do that. You have to understand the audience as much as possible. So yes, if you want help building creatives like this, book a free call below. I put a link down below, makewinnинgads.com. Hopefully this gave some context to me and some proof here, so all these comments aren't, you know, extremely negative. I really do this. We make hundreds of ad creatives every single week for our clients. We're constantly testing, we are iterating, we are scaling. You know, we also, you know, you got to have a decent conversion rate to be able to scale, right? So a lot of the ads do perform very well, and we take pride in that, right? I was at the agency for 4 years, been building mine for over 2 years at this point, and we're just constantly trying to improve and scale this thing. So we'd love to, you know, help you if you're trying to scale your direct-to-consumer brand with meta ads. Book a free call below. We'll talk very soon. Thank you so much for watching. Appreciate it.